Hi, everybody. This is Quentin Tarantino, and I am the writer of True Romance. And so let's start this off. True Romance was the first script I ever wrote. I had written a bunch of scripts from God, what was it? I guess from the seventh grade. All right, when I guess how old were you in the seventh grade? I don't know, like 14, 15. Till the time I wrote True Romance, but I never finished any of them. All right, I don't know how many scripts I tried to write. I don't know, maybe I don't know, probably not 30, but you know, up there about. And I always got to about page 30. And then I could never go any further because not because I would run out of ideas necessarily. I never had. It was more a situation that I think a lot of writers, when I read especially screenplays, the problem is it was more like I wanted to write a script than I had necessarily a burning story to tell. And so what I would do is I would write scripts and I'd get up to page 20, 25, 30, and then once it started getting to be hard work, I'd lose interest. But the main thing that would always derail me is I'd be writing a script and I'd get up to that point, and then I would all of a sudden think of this really other great idea that was just so much better than the one that I was working on. All right, that I would just kept hopping from thing to thing and never finish anything. And then after years of that, just having tons of pieces of material up to 30, I wrote a script called The Open Road. All right, and that got me past the page 30 point, all right? But the script started becoming literally my great American novel that never got made, all right? And so at least in handwritten pages, it was getting up to page 500, all right? So okay, well, I've broken that page 30 barrier. Now I gotta write a script that's could be the length of a movie. And so but I knew after I'd written The Open Road that the next time I tried to write something, that this would be the one. And it was. The very next one I tried was True Romance. But there was also something else about True Romance that led up to it. I had tried to direct a movie. And actually, oddly enough, the movie I tried to direct was called My Best Friend's Birthday. I tried to do it on 16 millimeter. And that scene that we just saw, the scene about how I'd fuck Elvis, that was a monologue from My Best Friend's Birthday that I said in the movie. And the thing is, I had shot it for a couple weekends, and then over the next 3 years, financing it from my video archives minimum wage job, I would just shoot every few weekends on this movie. All right, and basically, I worked on it for about 3.5 years. All right, just financing it piecemeal, a couple $100s at a time. And then what ended up happening is I put it together, and I kind of didn't have what I thought I had. It wasn't that good, and so I just decided, well, you know what? Okay, it just turned out to be nothing. But after being depressed for a little bit, I got over my depression. I'm pretty good about that. And I looked at the good side of it. And the good side of it was the fact that I had taught myself how to make a movie. All right. And I didn't have to go to film school to do it. If you try to make a movie, you'll, when you get through, I don't know if you'll have anything worth showing for it, but you will have, you'll know how to make a movie. Now maybe the next time you do it, you can do it good, which is my situation. So after that, I decided, okay, you know what? Let me try to write a real movie. All right, not that I'm trying to do it, not done piecemeal on weekends. Let me try to write a real movie and get the money for it and, do it. And at that time, my heroes, as far as, not even so much as filmmakers, but as far as they'd done it, all right, was the Coen brothers with Blood Simple. So I was like, okay, we're going to do True Romance like they did Blood Simple and do it for $1.3 million or something, and we get the money from doctors and lawyers or something. And Stanley Margolis was one of the guys we went to try to get the money. That's how he's still involved. His name is up on the credits. And I wrote True Romance, and it was really different. Here I am. It was really different than all the other scripts I had tried to write, because I just knew I was going to finish this one. It was a thing where I had a story to tell. I wasn't just trying to write a screenplay in order to make a movie. And so I wrote it, and then I tried for years. And so this was my first script ever done, ever finished. So then I wrote it, and then tried basically for the next 5 years to try to get it made, and it never happened. Now, I'll go back to the story in a second, but this is from the Japanese film The Street Fighter, starring Sonny Chiba. And it's funny, I've actually seen this triple feature of Street Fighter, Return of the Street Fighter, and Sister Street Fighter. And since the time we've made this movie, these films were like really almost impossible to find on video. And actually, the Street Fighter was the first film rated X for violence ever in the history of America. There's been a few since, but Street Fighter was the one. And then after its initial release, they cut it down to an R and cut it all up, and that was the only version of the movie available. Now, they've come out with all three of them on video in their original versions. So actually, if you at home want to have the Clarence, Alabama date, all right, of watching the Kung Fu triple feature, then you can, in the privacy of your own home. Except it won't be as much fun as it would be at a grindhouse. In fact, I have kind of a semi-story of some film geek friends of mine. They're into the stuff I'm into. When they were shooting this, that theater is that they're at is the Vista. It's literally on the corner of where Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset Boulevard meet. It actually used to be a gay porno movie theater, years and years and years and years and years ago, way before this movie was made. And then it was Revival House, and now it's actually for the first run theater again. But when they were making the movie, they had the marquee on the Vista marquee and everything, and they had some weird posters in the thing. And some film geek friends of mine were driving by, and they go, "Oh my God, a Street Fighter triple feature!" And they came in there and they go, "No, we're not showing it. We're making a movie." And they go, "Oh, this is Quentin's fucking movie. Oh, God damn it! All right." So they walked away. So I tried to make True Romance for like a long 5 years and never got it going. And what happened was, and believe me, any people out here who watching this movie and like the script and stuff, well, just know, if you had met me, during those 5 years, I would have sold you the script. I would have sold it for the most bargain basement price, just to prove to myself that I was a writer. After I tried to get it made for like a long time to no avail. But no one was taking it. And a lot of people had read the script and everything, and some people liked it, and some people didn't, actually. A lot of people actually didn't, because, it's funny. Now people kind of are, into my voice a little bit, but or have been. But then my voice was so new that it wasn't that, oh, this is a new, fresh voice. It's like I'm doing it wrong. I'm not writing a script the way I'm supposed to write it. And so I had to deal with that for a long time. Now, okay. I'm going to get off of my overall thing and jump into this specific scene right here. This scene is kind of interesting. There's actually a second part to this scene, which I have no idea whether or not Tony ever filmed or not. But it's he asked Alabama these questions about herself. All right, which is actually pretty much taken from the Playboy Centerfold questionnaire. He even says, what are your turn-ons, what are your turn-offs, that kind of thing. And then at the end of this scene in the script, and it seems really crazy, all right, so I have no problem by Tony dropping it off, but she proceeds to tell a story of how she doesn't know who she is, and she got hit by amnesia, and she's been wandering the streets without a memory. And she's just bullshitting him, all right, and Clarence catches that he's bullshitting her, and like they tease. But I was like, that's the way the scene initially ended. But one thing that's kind of funny is it was about like 6 years after I wrote it that the film got made. And so when you listen to her answers to the questions, a little of them seem kind of like cool and retro. But when I wrote it, they weren't cool and retro. They were literally, he says, "What's your favorite? Who's your favorite actor?" And she says, "Burt Reynolds." All right. Well, Burt Reynolds was a big star when I wrote this script. He was a star of the people. So it wasn't like this, like she was like being all cool and retro. All right. And the second thing he asked her, one of the other things he asked her is like, who do you find sexy? And she says, Mickey Rourke. All right. Well, Mickey Rourke was the man when I wrote this script. So again, that wasn't crazy either.
Don't peek. Keep your eyes shut.
Now, the thing about True Romance is it's the closest thing, it's the most autobiographical film that I've ever wrote. I mean, all my stuff that I've done, is, I'm all over it, and I've always, sometimes people will, I don't know, who knows what people say, but the thing is, my scripts are, I'm all over my scripts, and especially if you know me, you read them and you see it. And I always feel that as a writer, you should almost, when you finish a piece of work, you should almost be embarrassed by it a little bit because you were just revealing yourself. All right, the people will read it and they're going to know too much about you. I think if your writing's going to have anything, that should be the case. But just like, many first-time novelists, and some first-time screenwriters. My first script was about me, all right, and now I look at True Romance, and I've always felt this way, but this is a situation where it's gotten deeper and deeper and deeper for me. Is when I look at True Romance, I'm incredibly moved by my perception of myself, of Clarence, because that was kind of me. At 25, which is what the age I was when I wrote it, that was me. Now I'm, a lot of that guy is still me, is still in me, but I'm not him anymore. I'm different, all right? I'm 36, all right? So it's like, it's, I'm, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like I'm the shell of me is there. So it's like almost like I get to revisit who I was when I watched True Romance. And even all my, worked at a video store, Video Archives, and if you know anything about me, you probably heard about that. And all my friends who work at the video store, who worked at that video store, they love this movie because it is so me, and it's kind of so them. And I mean, it's funny, because none of this stuff happened to me, all right? I never met some, cool hooker or pretty much any girl around that time. Not at the time I wrote this anyway. And that's part of this movie, all right, is the fact that I was 25 and I really never had a girlfriend. And there was something of, so this is sort of like, not that I ever really wanted a girlfriend like Alabama. I've always been attracted to smart women. Not that Alabama is dumb, but she's not an intellect first kind of person. She's an emotion first kind of person. And I tend to I want to find a woman who's smarter than I am. But so it's not like she's my dream girl or anything. But the dream part about it was, one, just that she was a girl. All right, he kind of quotes that line in here when he goes, "Hey, I was so happy when you took off your dress and you didn't have a dick." So the dream part was that the fact that she was a girl. All right, and that she was kind of cute, and that she liked Clarence. She ends up falling in love with Clarence just because he's nice to her, because the way he treats her, because of who he is. And, it was really funny because it was very important to me that Clarence not be played by like a big old handsome movie star that you just feel could kind of get anything he wanted. It was important that Clarence be a minimum wage kid. All right, like me and a bunch of my friends. And Clarence could have even been a little older than this. Clarence could have been 29 and still stuck in a minimum wage job. Actually, when I was writing the script years and years and years ago, it was like my two people, and they were more or less the right age for it at that time, was Joan Cusack as Alabama and Robert Carradine as Clarence. They were too old by the time we made it, and I can't even imagine anybody but Patricia playing Alabama. She's wonderful, and Christian is terrific in the movie. And one of the things that I really liked about Christian is that Christian's a real handsome guy, and he's a real sexy guy, and gals were really into him. All right, but he's not really playing his sexiness in this movie or his handsomeness, all right? He takes his movie, he kind of scrapes off his movie star veneer a little bit. He seems like a minimum wage kid. He seems like a kid you could walk into a video store or a comic book store or any kind of store and see behind the counter. And that was really important to me. Just the idea of being in love and having a cool girlfriend, that would just, be, and it was also a big thing. It's almost been in every one of my movies I've ever written about couples, all right, is not just that the girl is your girlfriend and you're her boyfriend and she's, girlfriend, boyfriend stuff. It was the fact that the girl was your pal. All right, she was your friend. You could hang out with her like you could hang out with your friends. All right, it was very romantic, but she's your pal. All right, and that's part of the bond between them, is that she's able to enjoy some of the things that he enjoys, which, pretty much had kind of tunnel vision at that time. So the fact that she could, like, listen to the different, liked his kind of music, and, she could meet him at a kung fu movie, and she can watch the triple feature and enjoy. That's the Partridge Family line. I'll get a kick out of that. All right. And so, it's like, wow, she's like the coolest. She likes this. She likes to do this. She likes to do that. She watched kung fu movies with me. This girl's the bomb. So that was like a big dream. And in the scene earlier, when they were at the Heroes for Sale comic book store, which actually is a store, which the store is still there. It's just above Hollywood Boulevard. And it was called, at the time, it was a comic book store. It was called Fantastic Store, as in Fantastic Four. And it had a ugly papier-mâché thing, a gigantic bust of the thing on the top of the roof, all right? But they're the cheapest papier-mâché that over the years tend to just completely crumble and fall apart. And the store's still there, but they don't sell comic books that much now. It's more like just CDs and stuff. I like that. I like her little declaration there. That's really, really cool. It's... yeah, I'm getting touched just watching this now again. And that's not like the first time I've seen it in a long time. I've seen it, fairly recently, but it's just so unabashedly romantic, all right, about exactly what I thought romance was at that time, and what and also like the dream of having a girlfriend, never having one. None of that is from personal experience, and that's the thing, is I never really had a girlfriend. It's not like I ever had to deal with like these gangsters trying to kill me, or walking around with a suitcase full of cocaine or anything like that. Yet, while none of this crap ever happened to me, it's still kind of very autobiographical nevertheless. And all my friends at the video store, when they look at it, they see that too. And they look at it as like, since then that time has kind of been written about a little bit, and they kind of look at it as like the ultimate mythology of that time, of us and them and that time, is this script. And they all read it after I finished it. And there's also the aspect of I remember it was like, I used to joke that it was like watching some weird home movies of my former self when I watched True Romance, except Tony Scott directed it. So we're like, yeah, that's your home movie, man. It's like big and glossy and beautiful, and fast cutting and big sound effects and great music and stuff. It's like, yeah, it's a pretty good home movie, man. You done the Tony Scott way. The Drexel scene is interesting because the script, and you can get the script published in America. It's been published in England for years, or in other places for years, but you can get it in bookstores in America. My original script, which, by the way, except for the ending change, is pretty much, Tony shot my script, all right? It's pretty much exactly what you see in the movie, except the structure was different, all right? The structure was closer to the structures of the movies that I've directed. It wasn't a linear structure. Actually, after the first scene about the Elvis monologue in the bar, then the opening credits, the first scene after the opening credits was this scene, which was actually, along with Alabama's fighting of Virgil, James Gandolfini, all right, was the most edited by the MPAA, all right, because I had a big, and I think we have the alternative footage for it, all right. It was a big, long discussion about pussy eating. And the MPAA was just like kind of just flipping out about that. And they were going to give the movie an X just for the raunchy language. Now, MPA can be tough, but times really have changed. This scene could get by now, all right? If it was just talking about the pussy eating. And I've gotten by with stuff like it, but it was it took a lot of heat from them. All right, there's a little aspect of almost Tony's True Romance kind of got sacrificed in a few things actually, and Pulp Fiction and other movies, so Fight Club and other movies have come out after that have actually been able to go where True Romance wasn't able to go at that time. So now, okay, this is like a scene from A Better Tomorrow. Now, Better Tomorrow 2. No, actually, in the original script, it wasn't A Better Tomorrow. I didn't say put it in A Better Tomorrow. I'm a big fan. I love that movie. But that was actually Tony's idea. The scene that I had was from, in the script, was from Master of the Flying Guillotine, starring Jimmy Wang Yu. Okay, now here's the first appearance by Elvis in the movie. Now, with Val Kilmer playing Elvis. Now, at the time, it was really funny because she... in the script it says Elvis Presley comes to him, all right? And I really like the idea of Clarence. I was a huge Elvis fan, and I really like the idea of dealing with Elvis as this, like, a Humphrey Bogart character in Play It Again, Sam, who's his alter ego talking to him. But I like the advice he's giving to him, It's just like like to kill people, kill a pimp. And, it was funny. I really love what Val Kilmer did, and I love the way Tony shot him. I love the fact that you never quite see his face. And I've always thought I always kind of admired Val Kilmer for, like, being into that. I think, it's kind of happened in the editing room, and it was never written that you never see his face exactly. And I think Tony just ended up doing it in the editing room, and I think he wasn't too sure if Val would be pissed off or not. But it completely works. It really, really works. And from what I've heard, Val loved the idea. He thought it worked just terrific. He makes all the presents. It's all right there. It's just great. But in the movie, we didn't know if we could get the rights from Lisa Marie Presley, all right, to use Elvis. So we just called him the mentor. All right, if you look at the closing credits, is Val Kilmer as the mentor, which is actually kind of cool. Since then, I've actually watched True Romance with Lisa Marie Presley. We've become friends. And her fiancé at the time, they ended up getting married, but her fiancé at the time, True Romance was his favorite movie, and he wanted to show Lisa this movie. And I was all excited about seeing it with her and everything. And then I just I had a print of it, so I just kind of screened the first reel of my print before she came over. And I realized, wait a minute. I'm going to be sitting next to Lisa Marie Presley as Clarence, who I've identified as me, is talking about fucking her dad. All of a sudden, I was so into it. All of a sudden, I got a little nervous, but I think she liked it. So now, so let me get back to what I was talking about before. Is after I tried to get this movie made for about 5 years to absolutely no avail, while we kept trying to do that, I started writing another script out of frustration, and that script was Natural Born Killers.
This isn't a good idea.
And so I finished that, and then I tried, so really, True Romance was trying to get it made for 5 years to no avail. Then I tried for another year and a half. I switched horses, and I tried for another year and a half to get Natural Born Killers made, all the while trying to maybe sell off True Romance. And nobody was buying. No buyers. No one wanted it, all right? Every studio, I turned it down, but I wasn't even trying to do it for studios anymore. I was trying to, low-budget horror filmmakers to get it. No one wanted it. And then I tried for about a year and a half to get Natural Born Killers made, and that couldn't get going. All right. And so then out of complete and utter frustration, I'm glad that they kept that from the script. I actually had that he wrote the address on the TV guide cover. I just like that. I'm just remembering that now. I like the fact that they kept that point. It's a neat bit. And out of complete and utter frustration of being a filmmaker who's never made a movie, I wrote Reservoir Dogs. And at this time, I had just sold True Romance after all these years. And it was going to be directed by an exploitation filmmaker named Bill Lustig, who did the movie Maniac with Joe Spinelli, and Vigilante with Robert Forster and Fred Williamson, and he did the first two Maniac Cop movies. And I was hoping, I actually liked Maniac Cop 2. I thought it was a pretty cool little film. And I was hoping that, this would be, his, like Jonathan Demme did exploitation movies. I'm a big, no problem with exploitation movies. I'm a big fan of those. All right, they're quoted all throughout this movie. I was hoping that, he'd take the jump. And I really like Bill Lustig, but it was realizing, no, he shouldn't do this. He's not ready to take that leap. All right, I don't mean that in the worst way. I think it's a pretty good script. All right, and he's actually better with Maniac Cop.
Where the fuck is that bitch?
She's with me.
Who the fuck are you?
We sold it to this producer named Samuel Hadiyah. He was a foreign finance dude. And what happened is, in this time, I was working for a low-budget exploitation company, but kind of a high-end exploitation company named Cinetel. I was getting my first jobs ever, all right, working for them. They bought True Romance. They were going to make it with Bill Lustig, and then they go, "Hey, man, we got this really good writer here." And I was like flat on my ass, broke. I was like living with my mom. I had never had really a professional writing job or anything at all. So they started hiring me to do like dialogue polishes on their scripts that they were going to make. And they were actually like page one rewrites, but I was being paid for a dialogue polish. But in this time, the head of development at Cinetel was a woman named Caitlin Nell. Now, Caitlin used to work for Tony Scott. So and I was sort of like Caitlin's protege, all right? And she's a great lady and did a lot to help me out. And the thing is, I've always been a huge fan of Tony Scott. See, now it's okay to say you like Tony Scott. All right, it's really impressive. He's done some very impressive work. But at this time, in the early '90s, when he was pretty much just known as doing the Simpson Bruckheimer, movies like Top Gun and Days of Thunder, people used to put him down. He was not a director that you would give respect to. He was a big, glossy commercial director, like in the worst way, is the way people thought about it. And I love Tony Scott, and I'm a huge fan of Days of Thunder. I think Days of Thunder is a terrific movie. And I've always, liked Tony Scott. I love Beverly Hills Cop 2. I've always thought his style was just fantastic. I'm a big, big fan of his. I used to say, nobody gave Douglas Sirk his credit, during his time because his movies were popular. And it was a genre that was not intellectually popular, the soap opera, turgid melodrama genre of the 50s. And, the genres that Tony works in are not popular with the cinetistes and the film critics, but I love his shit. Anyway, the movie of his that I saw that I loved the most at this time, along with Days of Thunder, was Revenge. I'm a huge fan of Revenge. I love Revenge, all right? And so now Caitlin used to work with Tony, and he was doing Last Boy Scout at the time. So she actually took me on the set of Last Boy Scout, and I met him and watched, Bruce Willis do a scene, and it was really, really, really cool. And what ended up happening was... And then Tony had a birthday, and so she invited me to that little soiree party, so I'm talking to Tony there. And Tony really liked me. He thought I was a good kid, And, Caitlin had said he'd, quit his written a script. And he wants to make it. It's called Reservoir Dogs. So he asked to read it. Just because he thought, oh, maybe this kid could write a good script. So he read Reservoir Dogs and he goes, I want to do it. And I don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, all right? He wants to do my script. And so I was like, I can't give you Reservoir Dogs. That's what I want to do. And what I had done in the meantime is I had sold True Romance to this foreign financier guy from France named Samuel Hedilla. And I got paid Writers Guild minimum. All right, I wasn't in the Writers Guild, but I got paid whatever the least they could legally pay me. That's what I got paid for this script. But they gave me like $13,000 up front as an option thing. They paid me a big option, huge for me, when I bought my first new car. It was the first time, that was the most money I'd ever had in my life, because all the other times I ever had a lot of money was just from my IRS tax refund check. But I knew I had another $20,000 coming, so I wrote Reservoir Dogs knowing I was going to have about $30,000, and I could make this movie on 16 Reservoir Dogs for $30,000. All right, shoot it in 16, small, and 12 days or something like that. And so it was really cool because when writing Reservoir Dogs, it literally was, this is not just some script I'm trying to sell. I know I'm going to make this. This is doable. This is the first time in my life I'm ever going to have money. I'm going to use it to make a movie with. And so that was basically the idea. But we ended up getting more money, and we actually were able to make it like a real movie, which is a whole other story. But during that time, I meet Tony. Tony reads Reservoir Dogs. He wants to do it. I say, no, I can't. I'm gonna do this. But I send him True Romance and Natural Born Killers to read, see if he wants to do those. And I really have always thought about those first 3 scripts I wrote. They are completely my first chapter as an artist. In this industry, as an artist, my trajectory, everything. The original scripts for True Romance and Natural Born Killers and Reservoir Dogs, they all 3 kind of fit together. I don't mean thematically or anything, but just of me and expressing myself and finding my voice. And so he read True Romance, he read Natural Born Killers, he liked them both, but he really loved True Romance. He really, really loved it. And my thing was well, you know what? This other company has it. All right, so why don't and if Tony Scott says he wants to do it, I can't imagine they wouldn't do it. And so I encouraged him to go for it, and that's what happened. He went for it, all right, and he got it. And so that's how Tony got on this got on the film.
Open your eyes. I said open your fucking eyes! You thought it was pretty fucking funny, didn't you, huh? Oh, fuck you! Fuck you, you piece of shit! Don't fucking move!
And now since then, a lot of people have asked me, do I wish I would have done it? And the truth of the matter is, I made Reservoir Dogs. Reservoir Dogs got made first. I made Reservoir Dogs, and then after during the time I was writing Pulp Fiction, is when Tony made True Romance. And literally, on the pre-production of Pulp Fiction, we're like driving around doing a location scout, and I'm seeing the posters for True Romance. Like going to open up in the next week. I'm seeing the posters for True Romance up on the streets, and it was just so wild to see all these posters of Clarence in Alabama as I'm going. As I'm in pre-production, I'm making Pulp Fiction, and not only that, I had already cast Pulp Fiction by this time. So the first time I saw the movie from beginning to end was at the premiere, and I brought my cast to the premiere. We were in rehearsal, so pretty much my entire cast in Pulp Fiction showed up at the True Romance premiere, and we all watched it together, and it was a quite magical evening, and everyone really liked it.
I think what you did.
What?
And but the thing is, Tony was so completely the right guy to do this movie. I was the right guy to direct the movie at the time I wrote it, but I wrote this to be my first movie. All right, and your first movie is different from your second movie. It's different from your third movie. It was supposed to be, it was supposed to work and everything, but it's also supposed to be a little show-offy, a little, throw down the gauntlet a little bit. And I've studied directors' careers, so I think about there's the first movie, and then there's the second movie, and then there's the third movie, and then there's the fourth movie. And they're all different. They all have a different intention. And so True Romance was written to be my first movie. Couldn't get it going. So then I wrote Natural Born Killers to be my first movie. All right, couldn't get it going. And then I wrote Reservoir Dogs to be my first movie. Got it going. And what had happened was Tony's partner at the time, and one of the producers in this film, was a really great guy named Bill Unger. Oh, by the way, let me stop here for just 2 seconds. Burl Ives singing Itty Bitty Tear. I wrote, like I do in most of my scripts, I wrote little music cues, like different songs to play. And Tony pretty much, he picked his own songs. All right, this is the only one of my songs that I wrote in the script. All right, that Tony kept. He liked Burl Ives singing Itty Bitty Tear. I wish it was on the soundtrack album, but it wasn't. But but this is the only one of my music cues that survived. And so the thing is, Bill Unger, the producer of the movie, well, they were just starting trying to get the movie going. All right, said that he, Quentin, would you be interested? Tony would produce the movie if you want to direct it, because they could get it going with me now. I just done Reservoir Dogs, and my answer was no. All right, and this was Tony offering it, Tony and Bill offering it to me. And I said no, because I had emotionally moved on. All right. I needed to make my second movie, which was Pulp Fiction. This was supposed to be my first movie, so it would kind of be taking. I'm not talking about just for my trajectory. It just wasn't the same thing. And but also, and here's why Tony should have done it. Look, I love True Romance, and I never stopped loving it and everything. But there was a time for me to make it, and that time had passed. Tony had the love and the passion for it that it needed. All right, I had a respect for it and secret love, but I kind of love it now more. And I have to almost think that I actually even love now the movie more because I didn't make it. That I get to see my world through somebody else's eyes, and this is going to surprise people and everything. I was never on the set. I never visited the set one day. I was never, ever, ever, ever on the set. I talked to Tony a bunch in pre-production, and I talked to him in post-production, and that was it. I never went on the set, because my whole feeling about this is, if a writer is going to be involved with a movie that somebody else is going to direct, then either he should be involved in a big way, where he's on the set every day, and he's on point with the director, all right, or not at all. All right, you talk to them in the pre-production stage about the piece of material, and then you just let them do their thing. That really is my philosophy. And so I couldn't be on the set every day, and so that was the avenue I decided to go. And I couldn't be happier with it. But to wrap this part up, my philosophical feelings about this stuff, as far as scripts are concerned, my scripts are concerned, is they're like girlfriends. Scripts you write are like girlfriends, and the older scripts you write are like old girlfriends. And it's like, there's the girls you marry and the girls you don't. All right, and it's like True Romance was my old girlfriend. It was a great love, and we were together for a long time, but we never quite got married. All right, hence I didn't direct it. We never quite got married. So and Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, those were the girlfriends that I married. All right, and so I couldn't have put my old girlfriend in better hands than Tony. And it's also kind of great to see my world in this style, because I don't shoot the way Tony does at all. All right, and I've never in any movie have I ever used smoke in a scene, all right, where they smoke up the set and fan it out, and you have all this atmosphere hanging out in there. I've never done that at all, all right, and I don't like it when other people do it, but I love it when Tony does it. I think Tony does it great. It's and if sometimes I've heard people say that they don't like it, and I go, well, if you don't like that kind of stuff, then you just don't like Tony's work, because that's his style, that's his look, all right. I don't like dig it when a lot of other guys do it, but I love it when Tony does it. It's just a great look. And if ever in a scene that I direct, if I ever do that kind of look, then I'm literally trying to capture a Tony Scott look. I'll be telling the cinematographer, okay, I want this to look like a Tony Scott movie. Now, back to the movie here at hand. This is the most single autobiographical scene I've ever written. Not that any of this happened or anything, but this is sort of but this was me dealing with my stepfather. I never met my real father, but I had a stepfather, Kurt, and he was my father for basically from I think from 2, I started having a consciousness from 2 to like 10 or something, and then he split. But in that infancy and toddler time, that was my father. And this speech right here that he's saying, all right, that's my speech to him. That would be me talking to my stepfather in this situation. And everyone got on your case. I never did. Everyone blamed you about this. I never did. I tried to make your thing as as easy as possible. Your responsibility. If you don't want to do it, fuck off. All right. But what's interesting, I always had a really great relationship with his brother, which is my Uncle Cliff. So it's very interesting. And a couple of things like this happen in a few other scripts. And I would always write Kurt, but call him Cliff. It's just it's kind of an interesting thing. This is kind of semi-autobiographical, too. This is me in my 20s trying to be an actor in Los Angeles, all right? Fitting with zillions of other guys in casting office, just trying out for, hood number 2, all right, in T.J. Hooker, or, New York bank robber number 3 in an episode of Dukes of Hazzard or something. That was kind of a takeoff on this stuff. And, it's funny, but it's not really a takeoff. It's pretty much the way it is. The casting process. Now, the original structure of the script for True Romance is very different from the movie. The way it worked, even though it has almost identically the same scenes. I mean, really, it's except for the ending, it was the structure that Tony didn't use. Everything else, I mean, God, he did exactly what I wrote. I mean, it's pretty good. And all the scenes are there. They're just in different order. The way it worked initially was it would start with the Elvis, I'd fuck Elvis speech. Then there was the credits. Then there was the Drexel pussy-eating speech. And we don't know who's this guy, and he kills those other guys, and we're like, what the fuck's going on? Right, we still don't know what's going on. I like that. Don't know what's going on, but it's all entertaining. Then the next scene, after the Drexel pussy-eating scene, is Clarence in Alabama showing up at Clarence's father's house, Dennis Hopper. And so the whole, story more or less about Drexel, her being his pimp and all that, blah, 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 and the cocaine and all that stuff, all right, was told, you just kind of hear it through Clarence's version, but you don't quite hear the whole thing. But we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on, all right? And we only have Clarence's slight version. So when we were watching this scene, we don't really know who to believe or what's going on. Just two kids seem like sweet kids, all right? So they split. Then, he calls Dick Ritchie, which is going to be coming up. Then there's the infamous or famous or whatever Christopher Walken, Dennis Hopper scene. Now, how the structure really affects us in a big way, the biggest difference between the way the movie works and the way the structure works, is we don't know Clarence's story. We don't know exactly any of the whys of the wherefores about how he met Alabama, how he ended up taking the cocaine or anything. It's all just very sketchy. All right, all we have is the fact that we kind of like these two kids, even though we don't know anything about them. The biggest difference is, audiences, as long as they're in good hands, they like being curious. They don't like to be told everything, all right? If they think that they're in good hands, if they think the storyteller will eventually take care of them, they can wait if they think, it's not a mistake, if they think it's on purpose. And so Christopher Walken comes in, and he gives us our first real information about what happened. But his information is like, okay, here's what happened. Your dumb fuck son and his whore come in there, blazing. They found out we were going to do a cocaine deal. They came in there, they shot everybody, killed everybody, completed a total fucking massacre, and they took the dope and ran. So that's the first time we've actually heard complete information about exactly what happened. And so, like, our thought should be like, they did that? They're that crazy? They're that homicidal? All right, that was supposed to be the idea behind that. Then, from that sequence, then we have Clarence arriving in, Los Angeles, in Hollywood. All right, and he gets together with Dick Ritchie, and then him and Dick in Alabama go out to Pink's hot dog stand, and they're talking, and then Dick literally says something to the effect of, so how did you meet Alabama? All right, and then he tells the story, all right, and that's the second act, and that starts with Clarence in the movie theater watching the Street Fighter triple feature in Alabama coming in. And then that goes on through the whole second act of the movie until leading up to Clarence killing Drexel. And after the killing of Drexel and finding the cocaine, from that point on, we pick up the movie. It comes back in the film to when Clarence shows Dick Ritchie the cocaine and about how to sell it, and Dick Ritchie's like flipping out. All right, and then that's the third act, and from that point on, the movie's like it is. All right, now the way that 3-act structure was supposed to work was this: the first act, everybody in the movie, with the possible exception of Cliff Worley, Dennis Hopper, knows so much more than we do. All the characters know what they're talking about. We don't know what they're talking about. All the characters know what they did, again, except for Cliff. We don't. All right? Everybody in the movie is way ahead of the audience. All right. The second act, the audience hears the whole story and catches up with the characters. The third act, and this is where it starts getting kind of cool, and it's the only thing I miss, is now the audience, well, you know what, I say I miss it, but actually this still works, all right. The audience now knows more than the characters. The audience is so much more hipper about what's going on and what's happening than any one of the characters in the movie, all right. The audience knows that Clarence isn't working for a cop or anything like that to try to sell this cocaine. The audience knows that Bronson Pinchot's Elliot Blitzer, all right, is working with the cops. All right, the audience knows what's waiting for Clarence up in that hotel room, but we don't. The audience knows, but Clarence doesn't. It's like everybody is ahead of all the characters. So that was the way it was supposed to be. Act 1, audience doesn't know shit. Characters know everything. Act 2, audience catches up. Act 3, audience knows far more than anybody in the movie. Okay, now we come to it's either like I'd say like an official title, and it's not. It's what's kind of cool about it. It's kind of when something gets an unofficial title, and it's either called the Dennis Hopper, Christopher Walken scene, or it's called the Sicilian scene. All right, as time has gone on, and this
Tell Luca to go outside and you know what.
Is one of my proudest moments of my entire career. This scene. The scene actually the Sicilian speech came about in real life through two friends. One was we're kind of badass older black guy that was kind of like there's my mom, and then her best friend was a woman named Jackie, and she was black, and she was like my second mom, kind of, through my entire childhood and teenage years. And she had a brother who was no longer with us anymore, who had spent some time in jail, and his name was Don, or Big D was actually his most commonly used nickname. And Big D has shown up in a lot of my movies. Sam Jackson's little bit that mostly got cut out by the MPAA in the opening scene with Drexel. He's playing Big D. That's his. If you read the script, that's his character's name is Big D. And he used to tell me about history and stuff. And he told me way back when, all right, like literally when I was about 10 or 11 or something like that, about how the Moors conquered Sicily and how the Moors were black and they started fucking the Sicilian women, and that's why Sicilians look the way they do today. And I never forgot. I always thought it was kind of interesting. And and then I have then say cut to years later, I'm like 23, 24, and my roommate and still a friend of mine to this day, and he was Sicilian, and I'm like fucking with him and teasing him, all right, and I do completely impromptu the Sicilian speech in this movie for the first time. And when I finished it, I was like, hey, that's a good scene, that's a good speech, okay, note to myself, remember that. And so writing True Romance, and this wasn't me even trying to plug it in, it just kind of naturally worked. So I wrote it, and I was pretty happy with it. And now, I think this scene, I think a case could be made that this scene is almost too good. All right, it's every once in a while, it might not be the best thing to have like the best scene in the movie happen, before the midway point. All right, actually, I would actually say most other movies probably couldn't even survive a scene like this, because this scene would just be so much better than anything else in the movie that you'd want to go home after the scene was over. True Romance is so much fun and lively in the way, and the actors are so good in it and everything, that actually the movie survives the scene. All right. And you know what I'm talking about if you've ever watched a movie and it has this great scene and you kind of know you're never going to see a scene that good again. All right. True Romance actually, the fact that True Romance can survive this scene is actually a testament to Tony and the actors in the film. But when I'm saying about how good I think this scene is, I'm not talking about me really. This is like just a completely beautiful, I think, four-way ensemble between what I wrote, the way Christopher Walken played it, the way Dennis Hopper played it, and the way Tony Scott directed it. I think it's just a four-man thing, and what's wild, except for the little, they have one little improv in the scene when Dennis Hopper calls says, you're part eggplant, and then Christopher Walken says, well, you're a cantaloupe. All right. That was a little improv bit. But aside from that, Everything they said in the scene was scripted. So much so that, I mean, Christopher Walken has so much dialogue in this. And I almost got embarrassed the first time I saw the scene. I almost got embarrassed because he memorized every line, every single little tiny word he said, and he said perfectly. And it was almost like almost intimidating that such a terrific actor would take my work so seriously as to remember, as to completely never make up anything, never smooth out everything, just say every so, the, and they, he did them all. And it was quite terrific. And I really think that this scene could be, should be put in a time capsule as far as just great acting. All right. If you want to just see great actors being great, then this is the scene. You know what? I think I'm going to stop talking and put these headphones back on and just listen to it for the rest of the scene.
Sure. You got a match? Oh, wait, no, don't bother. I got one. You're Sicilian, huh?
Sicilian.
I read a lot, especially about things, about history. I find that shit fascinating. Here's a fact, I don't know whether you know or not. Sicilians were spawned by niggers.
Come again?
No, it's a fact. Yeah. You see, Sicilians have black blood pumping through their hearts. And no, if you don't believe me, you can look it up. Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you see, the Moors conquered Sicily. And the Moors are niggers. See, way back then, Sicilians were like wops from northern Italy. They all had blonde hair and blue eyes. But, well, then the Moors moved in there and, well, they changed the whole country. They did so much fucking with Sicilian women, that they changed the whole bloodline forever. That's why.
Now, if you want to see,
blonde hair, blue eyes became...
if you want to do a little history perspective on this, it's funny. This actually has made a lot of people who never knew this go to the history books and look it up. All right, and particularly a lot of blacks go to say, "I didn't know that was the case," and they look it up and they realize, "Oh my God, that's the truth." And actually, it was even kind of funny because I wasn't in the room, unfortunately, but when True Romance came out on video, my mom and Jackie and Big D watched it in their living room, and Big D hadn't seen it at the theaters. And Big D was still alive. And they were watching this scene, and this speech starts, and then my mom told me, and I can hear him say it. Big D was like, "Hey, that shit's true. Yeah, I told Quentin that shit. I told Quentin that shit when he's just a little bitty boy. He's 11 years old. I remember telling him that shit, but that shit's true. I'm glad that shit's out there. People should know that shit." Big D, wherever you are right now, God fucking bless you. Anybody who's interested in seeing, I think the closest thing that they've ever come to doing a cinematic treatment of the Moors is a really cool Viking movie, all right, directed by the cinematographer, who actually was a terrific director. I actually like him more as a director than a cinematographer, to tell you the truth. Jack Cardoff. And he did a movie called The Long Ships. And in it depicts the Viking War, the Vikings fighting the Muslim Moors. All right, and Richard Widmark plays the leader of the Vikings, and Sidney Poitier plays the leader of the Moors. And Sidney Poitier is the bomb in the movie. He is so terrific in it. It's so great. So that's really the only completely full-on movie version that kind of shows the Moors. All right. And also in the film, in that movie, The Long Ships, it's also very interesting, is Sidney Poitier's wife is played by the Italian actress Rosanna Scafino. And so, like, literally, he's got a Sicilian wife in the movie. So, if you want to take this, this history lesson just one step back, then look at Jack Cardiff's *The Long Ship*, starring Sidney Poitier and Richard Widmark. So, okay, so this is Clarence in Alabama arriving in Hollywood. Now, coming up here is the first appearance by Brad Pitt, the roommate Floyd. There he was. We saw him in the right-hand corner there. Just sitting on a couch, smoking a bong.
Floyd, can't you answer the door at least for me?
Oh, man, I didn't even hear.
Now, literally, all through my 20s, to tell you the truth, pretty much until I sold the script to True Romance, I always had to live with roommates. All right, and this was sort of my vision of most of the roommates, or a lot of roommates that I had, is just guys that just planted themselves on the couch, and that's what they were. All right, as if they grew out of the couch and they never quite got up, and just constantly watched TV all the time.
All right, let's go. Come on.
Wait, let me look. It's okay, Floyd. Watch yourself. Be careful.
Hey.
Hey, I didn't tell you guys yet. I had this really, really good audition for TJ Hooker the other day.
You're gonna be on TJ Hooker?
Yeah, it's the new TJ Hooker. Knock on wood.
You get to meet Captain Kirk?
Well, you don't get to meet him in the audition, but if I get the part, hope.
That would be amazing.
It would be cool. It would be a
Meeting
real...
Captain Kirk, that would be
I know.
Here we are. Oh. Honeymoon suite.
You're really in love, aren't you?
Very first time in my life. You know what that's like?
No. Shut the fuck up. Hey, what are you doing in L.A. anyway, huh?
This scene is when we come back from the flashback. Not the flashback, because it sort of is. All right, of Clarence telling the story of how he met Alabama and how he got Dretzel's coke. This is when we come back into the throw it. So this scene is like literally the beginning of the third act, and pretty much from this point on, this is the way the movie was. All right, now we're kind of caught up with the movie structure, the structure of the original script. This is the beginning of the third act. All right. So now the thing is, I'm really proud of the fact that when I write screenplays and everything, that like all the characters, even Dick Ritchie, is like, a full-bodied, full-blown character, all right? The closest thing to just a sketch that I wrote, all right, was Floyd. There really wasn't a whole lot to Floyd. He was a stoner. He's there sitting there on the couch watching TV, taking bong hits and everything. That was all there, but it was just a sketch. Brad Pitt took my little sketch and almost, as far as I'm concerned, steals the show. After the Sicilian scene, he almost steals the third act. He's so terrific in it. It's, to me, and he since then proved it time and time and time again. But to me, he completely proved his chops as an actor in this movie, because I know what I wrote, and he did so much more than what I wrote, all right, that I just give him nothing but kudos, all right? He is the man in this movie. It's one of the most memorable characters in the film, and I really do. I think from the third act, he does kind of steal the show. And there's even an interesting thing about that, actually. Another interesting take on that. I remember, like I told you, my whole cast went to see the premiere of the premiere of True Romance at when we were in rehearsals for Pulp Fiction. And the thing is, there's this, I think one of the coolest comedy moments as far as like watching the movie with an audience is people just keep showing up at the apartment and always having to deal with Floyd, and Floyd kind of sending them on their way. And it's a really great joke and gag that, like, it worked in the script, but it works 15 times better in the movie. That just kind of accumulates until by the end, the audience was literally pissing their pants laughing by the time that, all the Blue Society's Christopher Walken's gangsters show up at Brad Pitt's place. And Uma Thurman, who saw the film, we were talking about it the next day, and she had a very interesting take on it. She said that, there's a reason why the audience just clicks into Floyd, because Floyd is actually telling the audience something. This is her theory, and it's a good theory. She says, it's like Floyd is telling us, the audience, how to enjoy this movie, how to watch this movie. You're an audience member, and you're watching it, you know what? Floyd's got the right idea. He ain't taking it all that seriously. He's just enjoying it. He's just taking his bong hits, and he's just dealing with what comes along. And he's having a great time. And, almost in a weird way, Floyd almost becomes even more than Clarence in Alabama, the audience identification figure, as far as the whole third act is concerned. It's an interesting theory. Now, this scene is very, it's the same dialogue, but it's very different than in the script. In the script, I think they were all at the LA County, they're at the LA Zoo, and they're just like walking around. Tony put it on a roller coaster to give the movie like some momentum and like kind of cool, fast, cutty stuff, and it works really well. Actually, I think it was a good change on his part. All right, so then we're gonna go into this scene now. Now, let me talk about something else. Is True Romance was not a financial success when it opened in what was it? I think 93. When it opened in 93, and it was funny. It was a weird situation when it came out and didn't do well, because I'm literally in pre-production on Pulp Fiction. All right, Reservoir Dogs had already come out, and by the way, one of the most important and defining things about my career is the movie that put me on the map, the movie where people, and particularly critics, first learned my name, was a movie I directed. If the first time they ever heard of me was True Romance, for a while anyway, I always would have been a writer trying to direct. But because my first movie, the first one out of the gate, was one that I wrote and directed, from that point on they always thought of me as a filmmaker, not a writer just trying to direct. And in a weird way, True you could make a case that True Romance helped me at the time even more than it did Tony, because now they'd heard my voice. The next year, True Romance came out, and that voice got solidified. All right, and so then it was they were waiting for Pulp Fiction by the time it came out, and they had like a running jump on at least 2 movies before my movie. And even by that time, when Natural Born Killers came out, which was extremely different from my script, they could tell the difference. They could say, oh, this isn't like Reservoir Dogs, and this isn't like True Romance. This does seem monkeyed with. It's interesting in that regards. Now, but the thing is, I remember, I'm in pre-production, getting ready to make my second movie. Reservoir Dogs got all this attention and did pretty good. I did very good, actually, for an independent film. The independent films at that time weren't doing that. We're do okay, but I think we made $3 million at the box office in America with Reservoir Dogs, which was good for an independent film at that time. But it was a situation, and actually it's good for this time now, because they're not, most of them aren't making $3 million. All right, they're topping out at 800,000, even though they get written about a lot. But it got such press that everyone thought it was going to set new records and it was going to be this smash hit, independent-wise, and it didn't. But then it did overseas. So I had this, I had, and Hollywood had a big question about me. And Mike Medavoy of TriStar actually said it out loud. All right, not to me, but to he actually said it to Bill Unger, the producer of True Romance. And he literally said, Quentin has a voice. Quentin has a very distinctive voice. And the jury is out on whether or not it's a commercial voice or not. The jury is out. Will America accept his voice or not? All right, and the question was very out at that time when it came to after Reservoir Dogs, and the financial failure of True Romance almost seemed to answer Mike Medavoy's question, and the answer was no. Some cinetistes will like it, but America won't embrace it. I'm going to finish my point in just a second, but I just have to say that actually I love this camouflage drug talk that they're having on the phone here. It's I think this is actually really Clarence just being Clarence, at his ultimate. Kid, has no experience, but he has moxie, all right, and he's clever, and he doesn't know anything about Hollywood, but he knows everything about film, like as far as a film geek's concerned, so he can, just through sheer moxie, he can talk the talk, all right, and gets to where he's going just through his personality and initiative and cleverness on the spot. And I really think, the whole referring to cocaine as Dr. Zhivago is one of my more favorite. It tickles me constantly whenever I see it again. I just laugh again. I think it's one of the more cleverer things I've done, all right? Because it's just, they're talking about a movie. But, when you think about Dr. Zhivago, the first thing that comes to your mind is just blankets of snow. So I thought that was pretty clever. All right, but the thing is, now, here was the deal. The whole story behind the True Romance was, not doing so well financially, it was funny because I went to, they wanted me to go to the press junket. All right, I was known enough from Reservoir Dogs that they requested my presence at the press junket. So, Christian's doing interviews here, and the way it's done in a hotel. Tony's doing interviews there, and Patty's there, and Bronson's there, and I'm in another room. And the press was so positive. The excitement of the movie was so strong that I thought, oh man, this movie's going to be a smash. And I watched it with audiences, and you could not have a more audience-friendly movie if you tried. I mean, the audience just dug it. They laughed. They're just having a blast. And then it opened up, and it did very disappointing. And I'm in pre-production on Pulp Fiction, which, to me, by comparison, I mean, I thought I wrote a really wild, out there movie when I wrote True Romance, but to me, True Romance was like commerciality plus compared to Pulp Fiction, and Pulp Fiction is so esoteric by comparison that when it didn't do well, I actually thought Mike Medavoy's comment was answered, and this was going to be my lot in life. All right, that I would be like a respected cult director who has his fans, and they can be fervored, all right, but it's a small group. Same thing with certain rock musicians or something. Like a Lou Reed or a Dave Edmunds and everything. He's never going to be on the radio. He's never going to be on the charts, but they'll have a small loyal following. And I thought that was kind of, I guess, my lot in life. And True Romance kind of seemed to kind of just prove it. And I would never make a hit. What people consider a hit. All right. So I better keep my budgets low so they can at least do okay in a cost ratio wise. And I remember literally thinking when the thing of True Romance didn't hit, in pre-production on Pulp Fiction, I go, well, I guess Pulp Fiction isn't going to do well either. All right, it'll probably do about the same. So just no, that's just what you're doing. All right, so make the movie as good as you can because it's not going to be a hit. So you better be happy with it and try not to spend that much money on it. And now the reason at the time, they had to, try to come up with a reason why the movie didn't click with audiences. And the reason they came up with at the time, I think is a very good reason. Is probably what happened. And that is the fact that every single review of the movie, and this happened the same, and this was the same thing with Reservoir Dogs, every single thing hit on the violence of the movie. It was like, this happened in every review of Reservoir Dogs, and this happened in every review of True Romance. That it was almost like a Surgeon General warning that was added, and we're talking about positive reviews, like a Surgeon General warning that was added to every review of like, okay, you have to be really into extremely graphically violent movies to like this film. Well, I like violent movies, and that might turn me off. All right, it was and as much stuff that came about the violence in Pulp Fiction, the overt comedy in there kind of lessened that aspect. So they didn't necessarily need to put literally a warning about the content of the movie. But every review for True Romance and every review for Reservoir Dogs, all right, literally had a warning paragraph. And I always thought of this movie as a date movie. This is like the perfect date movie. You take your girl to go see this film, and it's like, it's got fun, it's got action, but it's actually it's actually very romantic. And I actually always thought that was one of the ways why Clarence should die at the end, because I think that's that's not a bummer. It's not a sad. I mean, you don't want him to die. If you did the market, this is where market research screenings go to hell. Is like you do a thing on it and you say, okay, how did you like Clarence dying? Well, if you did your job, they're going to say, no, of course we don't like Clarence to die. But that doesn't mean it was a bad experience. That doesn't mean it was a bummer. All right, it was actually a cathartic experience. If he died and they can't get together, and you cry because of the thwarted love. All right, that's its own cathartic release. The thing is though, when and also people have asked me, and I get this all the time. Not all the time, but a lot. People go, so would you ever do just like a romance movie? And they say, knowingly, that's so not what I would do. And I go, well, I did a romantic movie, and True Romance. And they go, no, but I mean like a real romantic movie. I go, well, that is a real romantic movie. Or yeah, there might be other like one without violence. I go, well, there'll be a lot of things in any movie I do that they'll be contradictory, but anybody who's a fan of the movie can tell you the title True Romance is not ironic. I don't really, half the things that people attribute when it comes to my work as irony, they're wrong. I mean it. I'm not being ironic. I mean it. They may be too cool to, mean it, so they write in irony, but I meant it. All right? And, the title True Romance, this is True Romance. And to me, this scene, not this scene, but the scene when Virgil, played by James Gandolfini, is beating the shit out of Alabama is the most romantic scene in the movie. She doesn't tell... she doesn't tell on Clarence. She keeps her mouth shut. She takes the beating and faces death for him. Again, that's the whole girl is your pal thing. And it's funny because when you look at they added back to the Laserdisc and the DVD the European version of the film, which has the entire beating of Alabama, which was cut to almost nothing, all right, in the American release version of the film. And it's funny, it's one of those things where, like, when you saw the American release version of the movie, it didn't bother you because you were just so caught up in the movie, but it's just so much better when you see the whole film and you see what she has to go through. Oddly enough, the MPAA, when it came to the probably duplicating some things that Tony might have said. When the MPAA did, took their scissors to the fight scene, the thing that they objected to the most was not the beating of Alabama, but it was Alabama fighting back, which is very strange. All right. She gets the shotgun and just completely goes off on Virgil, and then like straddles him and sits over him and just starts pumping shotgun shells into his body and like screaming and yelling. The MPAA literally said, "Okay, you got to get rid of that. I just can't deal with that." And they go, "Well, why? She's fighting back. She's the hero." And they were like, "Well, it's because she becomes an animal." It got to the point of actual story content that they were trying to eliminate. They were literally eliminating story content. Now, I never had to deal with that kind of stuff with the MPAA. I've always had a wonderful relationship with them. But there is an aspect that almost like, Tony on True Romance kind of, shed blood for my sins. And then I was able to be in another place when I started making movies because of what Tony went through on this film. One of the interesting things, though, as time has gone on, is most people don't really remember that True Romance didn't do well at the theaters. In fact, it was I chuckled about all those thoughts that I had way back when. I chuckled a bit when I got the letter from Morgan Creek about doing the audio commentary on this, because at the bottom of the letter it says something to the effect of, "Well, as you very well know, True Romance is one of our most popular titles." And it's like, oh, well, I do know that, and I'm glad. It made me kind of feel kind of cool, because over the years, it's like I think everybody's seen this movie now, all right, at least in America of a certain age, and it's a whole lot of people. It's one of their favorite movies. All right, for some people still, for some people it's like their favorite movie of mine that I've written. It's my mom's favorite movie of mine, all right, that I wrote, because she sees me the most in it. And I can't tell you, I can't tell you how many times over the course of 8 years or so, I've had couples come up to me and say that this is their movie, the way people will have a song. This is their movie. And I even met the I think the most famous, not the most famous, but the sexiest of all the playmates of the 70s was Deborah Jo Fordham. All right, you out there, remember her? All right, sort of looked like Kim Basinger, like way, way before Kim Basinger. In fact, when Kim Basinger came out, I was like, hey, she kind of looks like Deborah Jo Fordham. I met her and her husband, and she said that this was their favorite movie. This is the movie that they fell in love with. And they even quoted dialogue in their wedding vows or something. And that little "you're so cool" note that Alabama passes to Clarence has become like a catchword for couples in this kind of in relationships where like True Romance is like their favorite movie and stuff, and so that's terrific. And it is kind of funny how. Oh, by the way, this is really fucking cool because I almost applauded when I saw the first time I saw the film when she cracks him over the head with the back of the toilet and the toilet lid doesn't break. I think that's the first time I've ever seen that in a movie. I always bugs the shit out of me when somebody crashes a bottle over somebody's head and it just shatters and everything. It's like, okay, one, bottles usually don't shatter; they stay solid, and what shatters is your skull. All right, so I like that, and the sound is great when she bashes him in the head. Okay, now this is all that stuff I was talking about that the MPA made them cut out because they said she was just too animalistic. I go, well, that's the fucking point, that she's animalistic. The final thing on this that was really kind of cool, as far as it's like popularity and the way people have embraced it and it's become one of their favorite movies and stuff, is in England, which is probably the place on the globe that I'm like the most popular in. Well, Reservoir Dogs in England did like okay for an independent film, but was like kind of judged a little harshly because they expected it to do better than okay. It wasn't a little independent film in England. It was released as this is the big movie in America. This is the movie in America that everybody's talking about. And so it performed like a big movie. It was like a smash, all right, and did fantastic. I mean, we like outgrossed America like 3-1, all right. So it was a big hit there. I was beating big, huge, The Bodyguard, all these big movies like that. And in the time it took me to make Pulp Fiction, all right, Reservoir Dogs. I like that cut. That's great. His little blowjob scene. In the time that it took Pulp Fiction to come out, Reservoir Dogs was such a hit in England that Warner Brothers re-released True Romance in England. It had already been released once. They re-released it. And the re-release of it did fantastic. So when I actually I come to England. Reservoir Dogs also was not released for 2 years on video. They couldn't release it. It wouldn't get a video certificate. And because it didn't get a video certificate, True Romance, Reservoir Dogs played for like 2 years straight. Sometimes a lot of theaters, sometimes a few. Played continuously for 2 years in the theaters in England. And then True Romance got re-released. And so literally I go to England to do the publicity for Pulp Fiction. And both True Romance and Reservoir Dogs are still playing in the cinemas. I mean, that was pretty wild. Now, okay, so now we're back into the flow of the film. Okay, this is the two cops, Nicolette and Dimes. And I remember writing in the script that they were like a couple of Starsky and Hutch guys. And my whole attitude about it is, once Nicolette and Dimes come into the movie, they should kind of they should take it over as far as whenever their scenes are concerned. But now that's kind of actually set up for all the characters. In an interesting way, it's Clarence and Alabama are the characters you're following through the movie. But whenever they meet, Clarence's father or, anybody, any of the big characters in the film, they are almost supporting those characters. Those characters take over the movie. I'm stopping talking for a little bit, just kind of watching it.
Now what happened? What's going on? What are you talking about?
Okay, all right. Patrol car pulls a guy over for speeding, right? Suspect's covered with coke. So they bring the suspect to me and Nicholson, and we go to work on him.
And Nicholson and I.
Nicholson, what's the fucking difference? So we gotta work on the guy, right? Now we know something's rotten in Denmark, because this guy's fucking stupid, and he's got a big bag of coke, and it's uncut. And you ain't gonna fucking believe what he's got to say.
Seems a cop from some department. We don't know which one. He stole $500,000 of coke from the property cage. He's been sitting on this shit for 1.5 years. Okay? Now the cop's got this weirdo.
Suspect's words.
Who's a front for him, all right? So our guy, Elliot Blitzer, he's making a deal between them and his boss. Big-time fucking movie producer named Lee Donowitz.
He did the movie Coming Home in a Body Bag.
A Vietnam movie?
Yeah.
Good fucking movie.
Fucking
Hey, great fucking movie.
So you believe him?
I believe he believes him.
This guy's too fucking rattled to be lying. I'm telling you, he'd roll over on his mommy, his daddy, his two-panty granny, and the fucking king of Siam if he had anything on him.
I mean, this guy was a sissy. I mean, he really was. This rabbit will do anything not to do any time. You know what he'll do? He'll wear wire.
Where, why?
He'll wear a wire. We talked to him.
Dirty cops. Well, we gotta get internal affairs on this.
I don't give a shit who you're bringing, Captain. You can bring in a state militia, LA Thunderbirds, the ghost of Steve fucking McQueen, 10 fucking roll.
They asked me the question, I was going to do this, about whether or not, I like that actor, by the way, let me just stop for just 2 seconds. I really like that actor, Ed Lauder. I've liked him for a long, long, long time. In particular, I mean, he's done a zillion movies and everything, but I think the movie that I liked him the most in is a film he did called Lolly Madonna XXX. He was really, it's a hillbilly feud movie. It was really good. Okay, now, this scene is extremely autobiographical. I just love the whole idea that, they're sitting on an abandoned couch, all right, on the side of the road, convalescing her and everything. But having them sit there by the airport, by LAX, all right, and then and talking this whole speech, he talks about living next to airport in Dearborn, and about how it's a real drag, man, to be broke and live by an airport, because all day long, all you see and all you hear are people doing all the things you want to do but can't. Leave here, go on adventures, experiences, vacations. Fun. Which kind of sounds like it's one part of that actually sounds more like a written line, but I still kind of like it anyway. Well, that was me, man. That was me. I grew up in the South Bay area, which, like, the biggest, the most famous thing in the South Bay, all right, is LAX. And when I did Jackie Brown, I reset it in the South Bay. And the thing that's kind of funny about the movie is, by the way, that poster there, I don't like, one of the things I don't like in the film is the movie posters on the wall, because they seem production designed rather than coming from any of the characters in the movie. One, it's like, these guys are too poor to be able to afford to frame every poster that they have. I mean, there's about $4,000 worth of framing going on there, all right? And these starving actors do not have the money to frame all these posters. And when they would be stuck up with push pins. Highway 301, remember, I'm going to come back to that. And they don't seem, they seem random. They were put there they look like they were put there by the production designer. I really don't see Dick Ritchie or Floyd being this huge Reflections in a Golden Eye fan, all right, and they're going to put it on. So they were put there for aesthetic reasons, not based out of character. However, having said all that, Highway 301 is one I kind of like there, because that's a really terrific director named Andrew L. Stone, who's like one of my favorite neglected directors. Him and his wife, Virginia Stone, they did a bunch of cool movies together. And so while it always annoyed me that the posters were so anonymous and not character-based, I have now since forgiven it, because through inattention, the inclusion of Highway 301 was put in there. That sequence right there when Dick Ritchie gets the phone call. Boy, talk about casting a dream, all right, as far as like the character of a girlfriend or something like that. Actually winning an acting role. Actually going out of the auditions, and then all of a sudden you get the call from your manager or your agent, all right, that you won the role. You got it, all right. Boy, that was a dream, all right. And Michael Rappaport did that great, all right. That was as far away as a girlfriend seemed at the time I wrote that, all right. Getting a part on T.J. Hooker seemed even further away. Oh, and one last little thing in there. This is a good scene. Bronson Pinchot does such a good job in this film. His name, Elliot Blitzer. That's a good actor, a very good actor. He doesn't have much to do in the film. You see him next to the black guy. You see him next to these two guys, and later he gets shot in the stomach on the couch. Is Michael Beach, who's a really terrific actor. He does a lot of stuff. I think he's on Third Watch now. What was I saying? I forgot what I was saying.
Yeah.
Must have been a lie.
Okay. Hi. How are you? My name's Elliot, and I'm with the Cub Scouts of America.
That was Bronson Pinchot's thing. I didn't write that, but that was a good bit. I like that. Oh yeah, I know what I was saying now. I hope they don't cut that out. I like that kind of stuff. Bronson Pinchot's character, Elliot Blitzer, was based on a guy I knew in my acting class. He's not really like that guy or anything like that. I just always kind of like remembered him a little bit, and I always remembered his name. Elliot, if you're out there, I hope you auditioned. I really do. And if I directed it, you would have. I don't know if you'd have played it. You would have had to win it. All right. But yeah, you would have auditioned.
Beyond a reasonable doubt, that this man, a very respectable man in the Hollywood community, is also dealing cocaine. We've got to prove it in court, and you got to do it.
That's what we're doing here, okay? You're going to be okay. You're not going to get hurt, okay? So what you got to do, you got to get him to admit.
That's Michael Beach.
All right? That he's buying this coke. Okay, champ? Get a hold of yourself.
Okay.
You'll be okay, champ. I'm going to get some coffee.
Now, coming up, is a scene that I think they're putting some deleted scenes back in the movie, and it's one of the deleted scenes I hope they put back in the movie. Is it's one of the only things that I kind of really tried to really make my case that they had cut out of the film. And again, not saying the whole film, just on the editing, flat bit, that I really argued to try to put back in the film. And Tony's got a great arguing style, all right? I mean, it couldn't be better, to get what he wants. Because you sit there and you make a very impassioned, it's about this scene right here, I'll go back to it. It makes a very impassioned case. You make a very impassioned case, and he's listening, and he's listening, and he's listening. He's kind of nodding his head, and you think, oh, I'm convincing him, all right? He doesn't change anything. And that's playing on the fact that we know what's up there, what's waiting for them. They're going to get busted, all right? And we even know the gangsters are on their way. But, Clarence and Alabama are going to go to jail for this, all right? And we're supposed to love these kids by this time. And we don't go. We want to internally be saying, don't go up there, don't go up there, don't go up there. And what the scene is, he says that, okay, it's better to have a gun and not to need it than to need a gun and not to have it. And he's walking up there, and then what I had him do is he goes, you know what? I changed my mind. Let's just get out of here. We don't need it. All right? And I want the audience to go, yes, thank you. Oh, goodness gracious. And they start walking away, and everything's great. Elliot's happy. Alabama's happy. He goes, nah, forget it. I'm wrong. Elliot's just a producer. It's good. Lee's just a producer. It's good. So it's like you take the audience off the hook, and all right. Then you put it back on the hook, and That was the idea behind that scene, which I hope is in the supplementary stuff. I love this scene. I think Christian is great in this scene. And again, I like the idea that the audience is like, what the fuck is, just like Alabama is, just like Dick Ritchie is. All right, I like the fact that the audience is like, what the fuck is he doing? He's flipping out. What's going on? And maybe you might even question Clarence a little bit. But Clarence is an actor. Clarence is a good actor. He's gonna act like he's just gonna execute him and just bring the truth out of him. And then Elliot says talking to his wire and they don't know it, and then Clarence feels all bad. Oh, it's okay, man. You're okay. You're okay. I like this scene.
You are gonna be the first one shot.
Clarence, he didn't do anything. What the fuck?
Shut up! All right, I'm gonna blow this motherfucker away. Fuck you.
I wish somebody would just come and get me because I don't like this anymore.
Get hold of yourself, you fucking sissy!
And I wish somebody would just come and take me away. Just take me away.
Hang in there, Elliot! God damn it!
I can't face it. I'm sorry, but I just can't. And I know if somebody would just come to my rescue, everything would be all right.
Elliot.
What?
I'm sorry, all right? I'm sorry. Friends, I'm sorry, man. What's with this guy?
Playing around.
I'm going around. I just had to be sure. That's all. I'm sure now, okay? I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to scare you that way.
Oh, man. I like this Clarence kid. This fucking guy's crazy.
I really think, like I said before, I think this is maybe one of the funniest scenes in the movie. And if you never saw it in the theater, you kind of you missed out on the audience's reaction to this scene, because it's just this accumulative laugh that grows and grows and grows with each one of Floyd's appearances. And by the time they show up this last time, and Brad Pitt just starts busting out laughing and stuff, the audience is just pissing their fucking pants. All right. The whole movie at this point, by the time the gangsters show up, is adding one little element to, an already heightened situation. Just the laughter in the audience just kept accumulating. It's like, no wonder we all thought it was going to be a smash hit, because, you just couldn't have a better time at the theaters, all right? As far as seeing an audience reaction movie with an audience than True Romance at that time. It was just terrific that way.
Hello, Elliot.
Monty?
Are these your friends?
Yeah. You could say that. Everybody, this is Monty.
Hi. Come on in. Lee's in the can. He'll be out in a quick.
Holy shit, look at that.
There's a helicopter.
Sorry.
Okay, that daily, that helicopter shit footage up there is from Platoon. You bring that. That's like dailies from Platoon that they got the rights to show. So I mean, people have like joked about that I was like doing a parody of Platoon. All right, that's the movie that they're talking about, and it's just capped all off by the fact that the footage that they're actually watching the footage of Platoon. For Coming Home in a Body Bag 2. Now. Okay, now I've pretty much talked about all the big overreaching themes and subtexts of the movie. Now I'm just gonna kind of like shut up and just kind of watch the movie, and if I got something to say, I'll say it.
Movie of all time. I mean, after Apocalypse Now, I think that is the best Vietnam movie ever made.
Wow, thank you very much, Clarence.
Lee,
What?
this guy's packing.
Really?
Well, I mean, I've been pretty scared about this whole thing, but I'm fairly confident you're just here to do business. So look, I don't want to be a wise guy or nothing. If you want, I'll take my gun out. I will lay it on the table. It's up to you.
No, I don't think that's necessary. Boris, be nice. Make everybody some coffee, okay? It's a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Honey, sit down. Relax, relax. Elliot, you look like shit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, it's completely disgusting.
Need to get a quick signature. It would be great.
Whatever Bonnie wants.
Okay.
You like my dailies there, Claire?
Is that what these are, dailies?
You like them?
Yeah, they're great.
Better fucking be great. They cost me enough. What'd that day cost me?
$357,000.
Elliot, I swear to God, somebody is stealing from me.
What's this one called, anyway?
It's a sequel, Body Bag.
Really?
So we don't have a title yet, but what is Joe like?
Body Bags 2.
Ooh, that's imaginative. Got more taste in my penis.
This guy's really fucking funny.
You know, Lee, most of these movies that win a lot of Oscars, I can't stand them. They're all safe geriatric coffee table dog shit, you know?
We park our cars in the same garage.
That is like,
All those assholes make are unwatchable movies from unreadable books.
all right.
Mad Max,
That is
that's a
so.
movie. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, that's a movie. Rio Bravo, that's a movie. And Coming Home in a Body Bag, that was a fucking movie.
Okay,
It's the only
that
movie
is
up that time
so
won an Oscar.
exactly my philosophy and my feeling about movies at that time and being an opinionated movie geek. All right. It's really funny because one of the things about being a movie geek, and it was one of the biggest things that I noticed when I actually got to Hollywood and got up to a certain area where I wasn't dealing with the low budget dudes, but I was dealing with more legitimate people who make films, is one thing that a movie geek kind of has in his corner. Two things the movie geek has in his corner is he probably knows a hell of a lot more about movies, all right, not about how to make them, but movies than most of the people, not the filmmakers, but the other people who make movies. All right, he probably has more of a history of like what he likes and what he doesn't like and the history of movies. All right, and it's not based on box office dollars, it's based on what they respond to. Two, a lot of people in Hollywood, the agents and executives and everything like that, they don't have strong opinions. They have opinions, but they're not necessarily guided by their opinions. They're guided by information and they're guided by conventional wisdom. A movie geek will dedicate their entire life to cinema. All right. And, not because they're making any money from it. Most geeks never make any money from their passion and their obsessions. All right. Not for money, not for position, not for anything other than just the sheer love of it. And the only thing they have to show for this 100% devotion to an art form, the only thing they have to show is their opinion. Their finely crafted, highly tuned opinion. All right? And then that and they'll fight for that to the death. Well, and Clarence has an opinion. He's like saying them all over the place. Well, you know what? Having a strong opinion in Hollywood is like a superpower, because a lot of people don't. And there's an old adage, all right, that somebody told me. Actually, I know who told it to me. It was one of the executive producers on Pulp Fiction, Stacey Sher. She told me early on when I first started like working in Hollywood, you know, she'd been around for like a little bit. You know, she's a young gal, but she'd been around before I was. She said, she goes, Quentin, you got a good situation, because the way it kind of works in Hollywood, there's the "you're so cool" note. The way it kind of works in Hollywood is when you go into a meeting to do, you go into a room to have a meeting, the one with the strongest opinion in the room wins. Well, I normally have the strongest opinion in the room. So I've kind of went okay. And that's exactly how Clarence is doing this right here, right now. And, but also that whole little, like, okay, Rio Bravo's movie, that was the first movie since Deer Hunter to win the Oscars with any kind of balls. You know, I was coming off of the 80s, where it was like, every movie that was like sweeping the Oscars, all right, was, you know, how did you say it? Coffee table book bullshit, all right, you know. And, they had a lack of balls. Some of them even had a lack of point of view. They were just kind of trying to be Oscar machines, everything for everybody. And after like following the Academy for years and years and years, I actually got disinterested in the Academy and the Oscars at some point in the 80s. But things kind of changed in the 90s. I have to say, I think the Academy is in a great shape right now.
Right. Sorry. And Elliot knows me. Elliot, here. Call Joe. Tell that cocksucker that the production manager he forced on me is taking 30 cents of every dollar and putting it in his own pocket. Don't you want to count your money?
No, that's all right. She can count it. I'm going to go to the bathroom here.
Give it to her.
Well, 6 months, baby left me. I found a place to pray. There's down at the end of Lonely Street. That's heartbreak on me.
I gotta hand it to you, Clarence.
I was cool.
Man, you were cooler than cool.
Oh my God, I forgot my fucking vest.
Stupid.
Cody, on 3.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Put the fucking guns on the floor now!
Fuck you! All you pigs, put your guns on the floor and back away.
Monty, what are you, fucking nuts? Just do what they say.
Man, this is your last fucking chance.
Fuck you! This is your last chance! We can kill all of you and you fucking know it! Now get down on the fucking floor!
Boris, shut the fuck up. We're all gonna die here. These are cops.
So they're cops. Who gives a shit? Hey, Lee, something I never told you about me. I hate fucking cops!
I like
All
that
right,
line.
let's be nice, guys. Come on, let's be nice. We don't want to die. You look at me like Boris.
And I like this whole situation. This is a great... You look like the blonde Frankenstein. Okay, that was a Chris Penn added line. But I like that whole thing in there. Like the audience, when they read the script or when they watched the movie, when all of a sudden Lee's bodyguards are like, Lee, something I had to tell you. I hate fucking cops. I'm like, Jesus Christ, these bodyguards are out of control too. Everybody's out of control.
Motherfucker. What's going on? Who are these guys?
Put your fucking
Put
guns
those
up.
fucking guns
Put
down.
them down!
Yeah.
Put them down, motherfucker! Put them down! Put those fucking guns down!
Okay.
You really think I'm doing with Lee?
Now,
You don't think I'm kissing his ass right
one of the things, I'm going to clear up something right here, right now. And this is the way it is. This is the truth. All right. Obviously, I love Mexican standoffs. All right. I love spaghetti westerns, and I love the whole showdown aspect and the music playing and whatever. But that just doesn't exist in our world today. A Mexican standoff. My gun's on you and your gun's on me, and we either gonna shoot each other or figure a way out of it. All right, is the closest equivalent to a Western showdown in modern times, and it's an incredible dilemma. All right, it's just made for drama, and and with the exception of Natural Born Killers, I even think there's one in Natural Born Killers, but I can't, it's not a big deal, memorable one, I don't think. But I'd always put Mexican standoffs in my first few movies. All right, True Romance, boom, has this whole big sequence. All right, Reservoir Dogs ends with a Mexican standoff. Pulp Fiction ends with a Mexican standoff. All right, and I think the first time I ever heard that expression, when I knew what a Mexican standoff was an episode of Police Story, all right, that starred James Ferrantino and Fred Williamson. And James Ferrantino is trying to bust Fred Williamson, who's this pimp. And they get into a situation where they were like sitting in a cocktail bar, and James Ferrantino pulls a gun on Fred Williamson, and Fred Williamson has a gun on him underneath the table. And then Fred Williamson goes, it looks like we got a Mexican standoff going here. And I've always remembered that. Now, to clear up something that has followed me for a long time. All right, I've always been, from the moment I had a voice to say something, there were people who give a damn about my opinion. I gotta tell you, half the reason, working in video archives as a film geek, half the reason I wanted to be famous is so I could say my opinions and people could maybe appreciate them, as opposed to just saying, he's a cockamamie crazy movie guy. From the moment that I had a voice to say something about, I immediately started pushing Hong Kong films. Big power. I actually think they make the most visceral cinema in the world, all right, of all time, conceivably. And I was a big fan of John Woo, and I said John Woo's name, but I talked about a lot of people, all right, at that time. From the minute that from the minute I had a little light to shine, I shined it on them, because I really respected their aesthetic and what it was they were trying to do in movies. Now, having said that, because I've always pushed John Woo all this credit and everything, everyone has said, Quentin got his Mexican standoffs from John Woo. All right. And then you add it into the whole City on Fire thing, which has a Mexican standoff. All right. But sometimes they mention City on Fire, but a lot of times people just talk about the fact that I had a Mexican standoff, and they would always attribute it to John Woo. All right. And in this movie, not only that, they're even watching a John Woo movie in the apartment. Well, let me set the record straight here. Okay. I wrote True Romance in it was, when did I write it? It was 86. It was 86. And you know what I should have done? I should have maybe researched this, but I'm just saying it off the top of my head. I should maybe I always forget. I should have researched exactly what year it was. But if you get your Leonard Maltin's on TV guide, and you look in that, and you look for the movie Tough Guys Don't Dance, directed by Norman Mailer, the year that movie came out was the year that I finished writing True Romance, because I actually remember going to see Tough Guys Don't Dance that weekend that I finished writing True Romance. So that was the year. I think it's either 85 or 86. Maybe it's 87. I don't know. But the point being, other than old school kung fu movies, which is the ones in the 70s, the Shaw Brothers films and the some of the early Jackie Chan films, and then Bruce Lee movies and stuff. And I said Bruce Lee, not Bruce Lee. I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee. From that moment, I hadn't seen the new wave of Hong Kong movies of John Woo and the modern, what they call heroic bloodshed films. So, when I wrote this script and I wrote this sequence, I hadn't seen I didn't know who John Woo was. All right, I'm not saying he hadn't made Better Tomorrow 1 and 2 by that time, but I hadn't seen them. I wasn't to see them for another 3 or 4 years later. All right, so the very first, this is my first script, my very first Mexican standoff scene I ever was ever in a movie that I ever wrote in my stuff came from my obsessions with Mexican standoffs. All right, that I've always wanted to utilize them. So, by the time the movie was made, I was already a John Woo fan and seen a bunch of other stuff and whatever. But, like, as far as writing it the very first time, it was not influenced by Hong Kong movies. It's what I'd always wanted to do. So I was kind of I have no problem taking anything I want. I have no problem, I believe great artists don't do homages, they steal. Neophytes do homages, artists steal. But that was something I didn't steal. That, as far as I'm concerned, Mexican standoffs are as much mine as they are anybody else's. Okay, now, the closest thing I ever came to a Mexican standoff with Tony Scott was about the end. And what happened was he wanted to change the ending. And I remember coming to him very impassioned and saying, Tony, don't change the ending. Don't, not for commercial bullshit reasons, It's like, you're the man that made Revenge. I love Revenge so much. You're the man that made Revenge. And she dies in the end of Revenge, and it's what makes the movie so romantic. By the way, you've probably heard it before in the other commentaries. That's Enzo. That is Petty Arquette's son in real life. Elvis Worley. And the thing is, it's like Tony was able to combat me very passionately on his own part and say, Quentin, I am not doing it to make it a Hollywood movie. I am not doing it to try to turn it into something it's not. I want to do it. It's not for commercial reasons. It's not for Hollywood reasons. I want to do it because I love these two kids and I want to see them get away. It's just, I love them and I want them to get away with it. And well, I mean, that's a valid thing, all right? And so what he told me, because, I was going to try to be real tough, but I don't know what it is about Tony Scott, but I'm just a complete pussycat in Tony's hands. He can probably talk me into doing anything. But what happened is, he said, here's the deal, Quentin. What I'll do is I will shoot both endings. And I will make the decision when I'm editing which one to go with. Well, I could have said, no, you can't do that or whatever. But, I just figured, that's about as much as you can ask. You can't ask for more than that. So that's what he did. And now I got to say, I think Tony's ending is better for the movie Tony made. I remember telling him that at the premiere. He goes, I've brainwashed you. And he really didn't. It is a thing, though, where with the movie Tony made, which is much more of a fairy tale, even though it's the thing, one of the things that I love the most about the movie, not the script. I can just sit down and read the script. All right, it's the fact that he did my script pretty, except for changing the structure, he did my script pretty much exactly. All right, but he did what a director is supposed to do. He made the material his own. He interpreted it. And in the interpretation that Tony did on it, it became much more of a romantic fairy tale. Mine was romantic and it was all these things, but it didn't have a fairy tale aspect to it. And his had a fairy tale aspect to it. And in this movie, with that kind of fairy tale aspect going on it, I think he's right. It should have ended a little bit more like a fairy tale. I think they shouldn't have died. You can almost make the point, to one degree or another, that the movie hadn't earned a tragedy ending, which is interesting. I think that's a good point. Now, if I had made the movie, he would have died. But I would have been the same script, but it would have been different. And in mine, I think it would have worked. But in his, no. In his, this movie, the movie that we were watching, I think he was right. Yeah, I think he was 100% right, actually. So, that's it for the True Romance Quentin Tarantino track of the alternative track. And I had a good time doing it. Hope you had an okay time listening to it. Thanks.